Hello, everyone. Forest Focus with 3 days from the deadline for Nottingham Forest to ensure they don't take a PSR points hit for a second time, and it appears developments could finally be happening. We'll discuss the futures of Murillo, Mangala, and Niakhate, plus take your questions in the company of, first of all, former Reds midfielder Lewis McGugan. Lewis, good to have you with us. How you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. Hay fever's took over me this week, but I'm hanging in there.
Yeah, I mean, you were telling us before we started, it's proper bad hay fever. So yeah, it's good to have you with us. Appreciate you being here. Second guest is Pete Blackburn. Pete, good to have you back. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Looking forward to focusing on Forest rather than England for a bit.
Oh God, it's so depressing. Yeah.
Let's not talk about it.
No, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it on Monday because they're playing on Sunday. But yeah, it's pretty grim. Right, lots to get through in the next 50 minutes or so. We've had some questions in, which is great. Some good stuff, which is related to what we'll discuss at the top of the show as well. Reports today in the Telegraph around Forest and PSR. Quite a few details in it. Notably saying that Chelsea are interested in Murillo, with reports in Brazil also saying that they'll offer players plus cash for him. On top of that, Mangala to Lyon should happen, and Niakhate, it says a League One club in there. It's also been reported that Lyon are looking to buy Moussa Niakhate. And interestingly, it says in that report by John Percy that should Mangala and Niakhate be sold as planned, that should be enough to get Forest over the line to avoid a points deduction. There's a few other details in it around fringe players going and Jordan James of Birmingham being on the list. But just in general, Pete, just to start with, if that all pans out, and it is a big if, because until I know you're very much kind of, I'll see it when I believe it, kind of when it's done. But if it does pan out that, you know, Mangala, Niakhate go.
Oh no. Maybe you'll have to answer this one, Lewis, I think. Did you? I think he's wondering whether Niakhate and Mangala, the sales, John Percy sort of intimating that they might be able to cover the issues of PSR, I guess, and maybe that'll leave us without having to do anything on Murillo. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I think obviously with the news this morning that could possibly happen. I think that I think that's what we'd all would want. We've all spoke as fans and everyone connected to the football club that we don't want to sell our best two players and feel like we have to. So hopefully these kind of transfers can go through and it can kind of save that happening.
I froze then, of course. Thanks to Pete for it. Looks like he nobly stepped in. If it happens again, I'll move downstairs closer to the router. What do you make, Lewis? And if I'm asking the same question, I apologise. About Niakhate going, it would be a left-sided centre-back, and then if we do sell Murillo, another left-sided centre-back. Does that present us a problem, or does it not matter? Just avoid that points deduction at all costs?
Yeah, I think if you look at the recruitment style, I think left-sided defenders, left-sided centre-backs are always hard to come by. I think it's something that every kind of recruitment plan and football club try and look for, but unfortunately there's not many of them. And I think the big thing about it is that it creates that balance. To have that kind of left-sided centre-half, it really helps. Sometimes if you want to go to the back three, also the left-side centre-half is really more comfortable going into them kind of areas that sometimes get dragged out because he's comfortable on his left side. So it does help in various cases. But I think, again, the most important thing is what we've all looked going into the summer is hopefully we don't have to sell our two best players, especially if we're talking about Murillo now. So if we're talking about Niakhate and that possibly going through alongside Mangala, and that could possibly save that happening, I think that's a win-win for everybody.
Just on Niakhate, he signed a 3-year contract, but the club have got an option of a 4th year. So if they're to execute that, it would help with PSR. And I think it works out roughly anything over 5 million is profit. You might be saying the same stuff because I've cut out really unfortunately there, but just around the principles of PSR, and if we get over the line, obviously a relief, but I guess it hits the reset button again, and it comes down to forward planning in the coming year to make sure that we can't keep being in this situation. You know, it's all right walking up to the line, but you don't want to be dipping your toes on the line like an Olympic long jumper. You want to be a little bit short of it, really, don't you?
Ideally, yeah, no doubt. I mean, the good news is that as things stand, we've done an awful lot of business, or well, in terms of contracts lapsing, we've lost a lot of wages off the wage bill for the next period of PSR. So that's really helpful. I mean, there are players who've moved on who are taking up very significant salaries and not contributing an awful lot for various reasons. So that gives a chance to reset things a little bit. But obviously that can all change depending on what happens in the summer and what sort of business they go and do after June the 30th. So we'll see. I mean, I didn't answer the first question in the first place, so I'll answer that a little bit now. I mean, I'm personally a little bit sceptical about whether Niakhate and Mangala sales will cover the PSR issue. It seems unlikely to me because there's been so much reporting that Mangala's sale in particular has already been counted in the projections that were put in front of the commission for the last set of PSR. So personally, I'm not taking that for granted at this point. It would certainly be an absolute result for Forest if that was to be the case, and for us having a slightly less stressful time and having to hawk Murillo out all over the place. So hopefully that is the case. But it's been a lot of mixed reporting, so I'm not too sure where we are with that. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. But only a few days to go now, so we'll know for certain soon whether we've been tempted to sell someone at a cut price, and then I guess the question will be another one we're probably going to talk about later as to whether if somebody hasn't gone, whether it's a case of the club accepting another points deduction to keep hold of players.
Yeah, we did have questions around the points deduction thing that we've discussed, and I'll have to tweak them a little bit to update them. Throw one at Lewis's way. Paul Nunes asked if you could guarantee a points deduction of maximum 4 points. Would you take it? No, I would say, but that's a different discussion. I don't think that you can guarantee any points deduction, but I appreciate the notion of it. And then Jan asked about selling Murillo for a cut price. Is it worth it? I suppose, Lewis, just tweaking the question slightly, putting your player's hat on. If you're a young player and Chelsea come knocking, no matter around PSR or timings or anything, realistically, are you gonna want to make that move no matter what if it's Chelsea?
Yeah, I think from a player's point of view, the way he looks at it, he's come from South America. He's come into the Premier League. He's hit the ground running, and Nottingham Forest are giving that platform. Now he's come and done the business. But again, I think it's been good for all parties. I think when we look at where we are in the league and where we are as a club, I think we have to understand that we, especially now being in the Premier League, that the likes of Murillo, the likes of Gibbs White, them players that are going to be performing at a really good standard week in, week out, the bigger clubs are going to come and try and poach, and that's just part of football. It's a reality of what happens. And I think as a football club, as long as we do the best in terms of a transfer fee and make sure that we get as much as we can, I think that's just the journey of a football club and exactly where we are at this moment. In a high, nobody wants to sit here and lose their best players, but unfortunately, it's a way the game works, and even more so now that you have to look to get players in. Hopefully, that it works for all parties. They do the business, and you sell them on for more money, and that's always been the case, unless you are in that top kind of 6 in the Premier League where you can keep hold of your best players. But unfortunately, if you're not in that category, you're always kind of ready for these bigger teams to come and poach them.
Would you be gutted if Murillo went, Pete? Do you kind of develop that attachment to players now we're a bit longer in the tooth that we had as kids when we probably, you loved watching Lewis, for example. Do you still develop that attachment or not?
No, I definitely still develop that attachment. I think it's different when you're a kid. Clearly, you have those players that you pretend to be in the playground and all that sort of stuff, and that is a different sort of attachment to when you're an adult. I'm not running around now when I play football on a Thursday night pretending to be Matt Sells or whatever. But you do still have those attachments, and of course, they're there for the moments that mean stuff as a fan. So you do develop that stuff. I mean, for me with Murillo, I won't be gutted now because I've sort of been preparing myself for this for months. I think it didn't take long to see that he was a player that was going to be above our level. I don't think. I think he's just so tailor-made to go into a high-end Premier League team or elsewhere, a team that is going to dominate the ball, and he can be a real part of the their sort of ability to control games and contribute in an attacking sense as well as a defensive one. So for me, it sort of feels like a pipe dream that he can stay at Forest for longer than a season, really, and maybe that will change. Perhaps the right deal won't come along. I'm not too sure what's going on there, but as things stand, I'm assuming that he's gone. I've sort of let go of him already, and I'm in this sort of mind space, I guess, where I've just really appreciated having this incredible talent at the club for a season, and it's been a hell of a thing to witness some of the things that he's done as such a young player with so little football behind him. And it's just like phenomenal, really, and quite looking forward to seeing how his career goes, really, and that we'll always have that. We were the ones who spotted him. Our club brought him over here, and we were part of that career trajectory a bit. And that's quite a nice thing, really. Yeah,
I mean, it's interesting how it pans out. I'd love for him to stay just one more season, but if it comes down to points, hits, and all that stuff, then I'd sell him. But it'd be great if he could stay for one more season. But like Pete, my thinking is that realistically he'll probably move on. One of the questions we had in from Rafik and also from Andrew Chard around this Chelsea interest of players plus cash. Which two players would you like to take from Chelsea? They both mentioned Trevor Chalobah. Another one mentioned Amari Hutchinson, and Rafik mentioned Armando Broja. Are there any players at Chelsea that you like the look of, Lewis? Or if you were in Forest position, would you say, no, I just want the cash and nothing else?
Yeah, I think we can all sit here and kind of handpick who we'd like to be part of any deal. But yeah, it looks like a few clubs are looking down that way. I've seen Aston Villa have done that with Juventus with the two players with Douglas Luiz. So maybe that's a thing that a lot of clubs are maybe going to look in this transfer window. I think there's definitely a positive from it if that can happen. You can get a transfer fee, which has to be a really good amount, but you can also get maybe two players through the door. A lesser amount probably would cost a lot more if it was just a single transfer. You look at the three that have been named. I think Chalobah, he's played a lot of football for Chelsea. He's played in a back two and a back three under kind of a few managers, and they seem to play him. So that stands him in good stead. And if he can come, I think he'll be definitely a good addition. You look at Hutchinson, what he's done at Ipswich. He's had a really good season, and again, he'll be looking now to if he was to come, he wants to now try and put his stamp on the Premier League. So I think that would be a young, exciting prospect and a really good kind of addition to the squad. And then Broja is, I think, looking at it from the outside, I think there's been a lot of talk about him over time. He's had little spurts where he's come into the Chelsea team and done okay, but he's had a lot of injuries, and obviously he's had his last loan deal to Fulham, wasn't it? It didn't really work out, didn't really go to plan. So that one I'm not sure. I'm not sure on that, just because there's a lot of kind of outside noise what you have to make sure you do your due diligence on as part of the recruitment team, but definitely two out of the three I think would be very positive additions.
Yeah, we're playing kind of Championship Manager or Football Manager here, Pete, a little bit, but it is fun. I mean, Trevor Chalobah is a player that Forest had tried to sign a couple of times, and I really like. And if there is a deal to be done where he was part of it, then I would certainly be on board. What about him and any other Chelsea make-weights that are potentially realistic?
I think Hutchinson's the obvious one for me. It's just fresh off an absolutely outrageous season in the Championship, certainly the sort of run in the season. The huge goal threat, can play on both sides and will be a massive asset for us if we continue playing the sort of system that we have been doing, challenging Elanga and Hudson-Odoi for those positions, I guess. And I think he can come in and play a bit more centrally as well. Seems to carry the ball really well. Massive goal threat. 14 goals and assists, I think, in 20-odd starts. And a load of sub-appearances. So if he feels like the sort that is sort of ready to explode at this level potentially in the next year or two, and I think that's exactly where we should be. I'm totally with Lewis on Broja. I mean, obviously a talented striker who's a threat at this level and has been in the past, but it's a long time since he's played a lot of football and been a constant goal scorer in the Premier League. I think he played a fair bit actually for Chelsea off the bench or short periods of time last season, but I'm not sure I can recall him playing more than 60-odd minutes in a game. And the season before, I mean, his season was absolutely decimated by injury. So he's one that's going to come with a a very significant value attached if the reports that Chelsea are asking for quite a lot of money for him to be believed, a lot of wages, and no real guarantee of what's still there in terms of his physicality and such like. Chalobah's definitely a really good player. I think he'd slot in really nicely. Worries me slightly that he's turned us down before and possibly twice. I'm not too sure. I guess I understand why he would, because he's at a really good football club and has high ambitions, and clearly it'd be a step down of sorts to come to us. But I think Forest really desperately need to be recruiting players who want to come here and prove a point. So I'd want to be really sure about that. I think that's just the case with all recruitment, isn't it? That players are coming in, are really keen to play for you, and don't sort of see it as they're doing you a favour rather than the other way around. But yeah, great player. And I don't know, it's hard to say with these swap deals, aren't they? They're so complicated, but obviously they're happening an awful lot now all of a sudden because of the PSR rules. So it'll be interesting to see it play out. But if I had a choice, I'd be going hard for Hutchinson, I think.
Yeah. Cunning in the comments mentions Andre Santos, who would actually be really good this year. After a really good year in France, when we probably might well need a midfielder. Complete tangent before we move on. Gary says, I've just seen Lewis lob Jordan Pickford for Sheffield Wednesday on Twitter. What's the best goal you scored? And I'd take the free kick against Ipswich out of it, unless that's not the best goal you scored, Lewis.
To be honest, I get asked this question a lot because I understand that the Ipswich goal, from people who see it, would automatically think that one is. And listen, it definitely is up there. But especially for Nottingham Forest, there's a goal I scored away at Hartlepool in League One, and that goal won us the game, which took us into the last game of the season against Yeovil, which allowed us the opportunity to get promoted. So so for me, that was my best goal. That's what meant the most, because that was the opportunity to give us to get this football club back into the Championship. And for me, being a local lad and a local boy, I was a part of keeping that dream alive. So that's definitely the best goal for me.
Christ, I love that answer. I thought it was going to be a throwaway tangent, but that's a great answer. So I'm glad I asked it. Can
you imagine having achieved so much in your career that you can have hit that ball against Ipswich and then actually have to think about whether it's the best thing you ever did? It makes me want to cry. Incredible.
Yeah, I always, like I said, I've had this conversation a lot with people about the Ipswich goal, and yes, it was a great goal. But I also say as well, I could probably do that 10 other times, and it could end up in Rosette. Do you know what I mean? And I think on that day, I got a little bit of luck, and yeah, I caught it well. And we've all done it, no matter what level. Sometimes you play football, you hit a ball, and everything just works, everything just goes to plan. And fortunately for me, that was that day. So yeah. But again, it's just been it was a pleasure to be able to play at the City Ground and to be able to score goals like that, and also, which is really nice, that it stays in fans and people's memory, and we can kind of now talk about it now and have conversations. So that's, for me, that's the best part about it all.
I mean, we've all done it. It's very magnanimous of you. I don't remember pinging one in like that myself ever, even on the park. But yeah, there you go. Right. Quick word for our sponsors, the Trent Navigation. You can get your tickets to watch the round of 16 at the Euros. England playing on Sunday, obviously. Gigantic.com to get your tickets. Great experience. Pete is going on Sunday, I think, because Pete, you loved it last time. Is that right?
Yeah, don't let that put you off. Yeah, no, it's first class. Obviously incredible venue. Everyone knows that anyway. But being able to actually get food and drink without having to queue for 5 hours during a game was pretty remarkable. So yeah, fantastic. I'd say I'm looking forward to it, but the way England playing, I'm not so sure about that. But yeah, it should be great to have a few beers and hopefully see a few people there.
Just going back to business then, another thing in the John Percy article was saying about we're going to target players aged 20 to 24 with Jordan James of Birmingham on the list. Interestingly, one of the questions we had was around signing experienced players, and going beyond the illusion says we need Premier League experience. I'll throw that one at Lewis, but just Jordan James, Pete. I mean, I've only seen fleeting bits of him, but he's very highly regarded. That's the kind of business that I like the sound of. What do you think?
Yeah, it really does it for me. I mean, I don't think you'd be expecting him to come in and have a sort of instant impact on starting games necessarily. But if we can become the sort of place that offers players like that, players of real potential, a chance to grow and an environment where they can improve, that's absolutely where I want us to be. I think he's definitely got the quality, the potential to be a talent at Premier League level. I think I've watched him a few times for Birmingham, and it seems like he can do a bit of everything, which is always nice to see. In a midfielder, I think I've seen him play sort of 6, 8, and 10, and out wide as well, I think. But for me, the thing that really impressed me is he seems to have just slotted into playing for the national side as well in such like a cool, calm way, which I think is just really impressive for a guy of his age who's really not played that much football. I mean, he didn't actually start that many games for Birmingham City last time out, I don't think. So yeah, I love that. I love that sort of move from Forest, and I hope that we are going to become one of those teams that you see doing constant business in that sort of age bracket, and looking to bring players in and really work with them and develop them. And I think you have to have a sort of a point that makes you stand out at Premier League level if you're not one of those massive clubs with huge turnover and huge commercial ability and stuff. And I think Forest, this is something we can have. You know, we have a history of bringing through our own players, and there's no reason why we can't sort of build on that with bringing in some of the young talent from around the country and around the world as well. And recent hit rate with Murillo, and hopefully continuing with the likes of Danilo. So yeah, for me, that's it's a way I'd like to see us go.
Great to have 260 people with us. If you haven't already, do us a favour just to hit like on the video. That would be a big help. One of the questions, Lewis, was in which positions would you recruit experienced players? Just in general on that question, but also going for young players like Jordan James and experience. What's the balance need to be for you?
Yeah, I think that's the key word. It's balance. I think that you should always try and look and look at the kind of players that are playing in the lower leagues, and is there an opportunity of you to get them? They've shown enough that you can get them into your squad and think that they're going to fulfil their potential. So you should always be looking at that. I think again, we're speaking about Chelsea. Look at what Chelsea did. Chelsea went that young way, and that's what their kind of model is going to be. And it's not really gone to plan. It's not really worked out, and you find yourself just a lot of young players which are inexperienced. So I think that's the key. You've got to, every time you have got to find that balance. You have got to always try and look at the younger players and bring them in. But the key about that is you've got to have the right senior pros around them to allow them to flourish and allow them to gain experience, but the right experience, and learn the right things. I think so it's key getting them, but also the biggest key is also getting in the right experience, the right mentality, the right kind of characters, which will allow these young players that you're bringing in to flourish and to really learn their trade.
I know it's a cliche, but does that need to be down the spine of the team? You want a wise old centre half, a guy who's played 300 games in midfield, that kind of stuff. Is that crucial?
Well, yeah, of course it is. And that's what I mean. Football is very, very simple, even though nowadays it really seems super complicated, but it is. No, it's always changed. If you can get a really strong, experienced spine, you're halfway there, and then you can kind of put the pieces in and around that. And I think they're just in them areas. If you can get that spine, that experience, as players, when we're on the pitch, they're the people that you look at. They're the people when you're going through them tough moments. It's like, okay, in that department, don't worry, we're okay. Listen to me, we'll take care of it. And sometimes you need that. And younger players are more now learning on the job, and that's still part of it. But also you need that little bit of experience and that seniority around you to at certain times just to calm things down and to let you know everything's going to be okay.
There's a comment here from Lee Lewis about we lacked leadership last season. It's not been addressed with. Do you see a lack of leadership in that team when Morgan and Ryan Yates and Bolly, when he played, are probably your most senior players, but two of them are still quite young? Does that matter?
Yeah. I think it's how you look at leadership. I think that you can look at different characters. I think sometimes we kind of pigeonhole. Everyone thinks leadership of like these big characters who are going to come and be very vocal and shout and non-stop talking. It's like your Jordan Henderson's type of that kind of vocal. But sometimes it's not always like that. Sometimes it's your leadership by maybe not being as vocal, but also your performances on the pitch and taking balls in tight areas, or when it's a bit at home and we need to go and get the 3 points and the crowd are getting a little bit edgy. It's like, don't worry, listen, give me the ball. I don't mind making mistakes. I don't mind taking the baton. And they're the little things. So it's not always about being the loudest and the one who's pointing and shouting out there. Sometimes it's the ones that are maybe quieter, but they demonstrate more leadership by what they do on the pitch.
Last one for you quickly, Lewis, before I throw it to Pete. Would playing in the same team as Jordan Pickford drive you absolutely mental when he's screaming at you if someone has a shot from 50 yards?
Well, goalkeepers aren't normal, really. They're never the most kind of placid of people. They've always got some kind of edge, and that's just the characters they are. And sometimes goalkeepers have to do that to keep themselves. I know Aaron Ramsdale said something a long season about, like, sometimes in games he just switches off and loses concentration, and he can't really concentrate for that long period of time. So sometimes goalkeepers do it, and players do it in general, more just to keep themselves kind of in the game. Personally, I think Pickford's a bit too much. I think it's all the time. I think it's sometimes that when you're like that, especially as a goalkeeper, I think you can bring panic throughout the team, but also the back four in front of you. I think if you, like I said about the previous comment, I think information is good and you give the right information at the right time. But if you're constantly just bellowing, I think it comes to a point as players, they just shut off. And that's no good for anyone in terms of that connection from a goalkeeper to his defenders.
No, agreed. One of the few experienced players we have been linked with, Pete, quite tentatively, but it's interesting because he used to play for us, is Mel Antonio. I kind of like signing the old experienced player, but I'd worry a bit given his recent injury record. Would that be one that you'd be against, or would you like the sentimentality of and still recognise that he is still a good player?
I don't want to be too negative, but it doesn't feel great to me, to be honest. The last few times I've seen him play, he looks like he's dropped off a bit, and I don't think his output's been great last season. And such like, I had a quick browse of his stats when that rumour surfaced, and it sort of feels like that my eye test there has been backed up by really what he's been putting out on the pitch. Doesn't seem to be the same sort of explosive threat. And I know he's a much changed player from the one that we saw here. But even Antonio as that sort of target man 9 was a real handful in the Premier League and caused massive pain in the arse for defenders. But I'm just not convinced that he is still that guy now. I think he maybe has just lost a bit of that sort of pace. And I mean, obviously, has certainly lost some of the pace, but just doesn't look quite as dynamic as and threatening as I think he was in sort of previous seasons. And I'm not sure about the balance of having 3 strikers, all of whom are, potential doubts over injury, and a couple of them are getting on a little bit in years. I'm not sure about that as a blend. He's not going to be cheap either, wages wise, and I presume that at this stage of his career, he's probably going to be looking for a 2-year deal somewhere at least to give him a bit of security. So I'm not sure. Look, I loved him here. He was fantastic for us, and it's been brilliant to see what he sort of became in the Premier League as well. I wouldn't have seen that coming, to be honest. Quite a big change in the way he played. I think he's been a fantastic player, but I wouldn't. It was not something I'd be going for. But if he comes, I'll certainly be supporting him.
I'm guessing you've certainly played against him, Lewis. Were you ever on the same team as him? And would you think it's a good signing if we had 2 other strikers who weren't potentially injury prone? Would you take more of a gamble on him?
I'd like to. I agree with Pete. Really, I think he had a fantastic spell with the club, and I think he's done really, really well in terms of his career and what he's gone on to achieve. I think we as a football club now, I think that we have to look at different targets. I think we have to look at a different way, and I think the way we want to go, the way the owner wants to go, I don't quite see how that signing would help that. You look at characteristics. Is he that different to Taiwo? Not really. You look at then the injury kind of thing. He picks up a lot of injuries, a lot of hamstring injuries, a lot of kind of stop-start. And I just don't know if we're going to go and look for strikers, we ain't going to have be able to go and bring 2 or 3 in. So I think that the one definitely that we have to bring in has to be something completely different to the ones we have, and it has to try and be an upgrade to what we have. And I don't quite think at this point in time, where he is in his career, I don't think that is the right way for us to go.
AJ asked about Jamal Lascelles, but he got a bad injury at the end of last season, AJ, so he's out for ages. So I think that kind of rules that one out. Another interesting side note, Pete, is Ben Osborne. Just quickly, because he looks like he's going to Derby. In fact, I'm sure he's going to Derby. I guess some fans will absolutely hammer him for that. I mean, they hammered him quite a lot when he played for us. But do you have any grudge against a player going to Derby in these circumstances?
No, not at all. I've got huge, I think probably undying affection for Ben Osborne. He was a sort of rare bright spark in some pretty poor Forest teams. Work rate never in question. And for me, I don't think quality in question either. Not necessarily the most technically brilliant player around, but we really didn't have many of them in a lot of those teams. And I think he was often one of our better players. Really, really underappreciated by fans, in my opinion. And it seems like football fans, I guess we always have to have someone to have a moan about, and more often than not, it seems to have been him while he was at the club. But for me, I think he always did a good job. Often shunted to different positions, played left back, left mid. But I think he was at his best, he was a very good, industrious box-to-box 8 in a sort of 3-man midfield. Get around the park and contribute to all aspects of the game. And let's not forget, he gave us some magical moments too. I mean, remember that mad free kick against was it Bristol City?
And the goal against Derby, of course.
And the goal against Derby, 92nd minute winner against Derby. So no, I mean, I wish him all the very best with a move that I guess will mean a lot to him as a boyhood Derby fan. Somebody who put that totally aside and looked like a Forest fan when he played for us. He was a brilliant servant. I hope the rest of his career goes well. No ill feeling whatsoever. I guess fingers crossed he's doing well personally in a struggling team though. Yeah,
I mean, Forest and Derby aren't on the same level by a long shot at the moment, so I don't have any problem with it. And I guess Lewis as well. Like, I guess as fans, we sometimes forget, I think, that getting to know yourself and Nathan and Kelvin a bit as well. Like, football's not an easy industry to find a new contract in necessarily. And at the end of the day, I think you just have to do what's best for you and your family, really, don't you?
Yeah, 100%. At the end of the day, it's a job, and that's it. And it's a job, and where you can earn a living to provide for your family. And when opportunities come, sometimes they come. And yes, it might not it might look a bit different in terms of the Nottingham Forest connection now going to Derby. But at the end of the day, he's got to provide for himself and his family, and it's a great opportunity for him to go and carry on playing football. Also, you look into it. What sometimes family is where it's based in terms of his movement. He hasn't got to move. I know he's still local and stuff like that. All these things come into it, especially as you get older in your career and certain factors come into your lifestyle. So all these things come into it, and like I said, he's not the first to do it, and I'm sure he won't be the last. And yes, I can understand some fans' perception, because it's never nice to know kind of an ex-player, especially a kind of homegrown player, going to your local rivals. But it happens, and unfortunately, it's a job, and he has to do what the best thing for himself and his family.
I was just trying to find some other questions there, and I turned my phone on, and Norm McDonald was telling a very funny joke about a moth. Sorry, so apologies to anyone who heard that. I'll come back to those because there were questions around. Oh yeah, one was from Adrian around stadium news. Any news on the stadium about moving? No, I don't think so. I think it's going to go pretty quiet on that for a while. And someone else was asking about developments to the stadium this summer. They mentioned the rail seating. That was one. The corners are being filled in, and the big screens have been moved. So we just see what happens with that. I think that's the only thing that's really happening. Have you heard of anything else that's happening with the stadium, Pete? I think that's about it, really, isn't it?
No, I think
I meant around developments this summer, really. Unless
that's
around moving.
No, yeah. In terms of what they're doing this summer, I think that's all that's been publicised so far. I imagine there will be bits and bobs of work in the concourses and tightening up some of the sort of aesthetics of things. But no, I've not heard of anything else.
I found the other question I was going to ask. Sorry, Forest on the up on Twitter. Would any of you want? This is probably more of a question for Pete from a fan point of view. Would any of you want the City ground to be sponsored? If so, would you want it called just the company name, or so and so, or the McDonald's City ground, for argument's sake? How would you feel about that under any circumstances, Pete?
I must admit, I was sort of hoping you wouldn't ask me this question.
I can answer it as well. I will answer it as well.
No, it's fine. I mean, I certainly wouldn't use the term "want" to describe my feelings on it. It's not something I want to see happen. I'm sort of like generally pretty uncomfortable with the extent of the free marketisation of football and just how intensely commercial everything is. But this is just what it is now, I guess. I'm also someone who has constantly railed against moving and increasing season ticket prices for pricing fans out and stuff. So at some point, I probably might need to give a little bit of balance there, and perhaps this would be one of the areas where I could tolerate it slightly more. It's not something I want to see happen, and if it does happen, I will always refer to the City ground as the City ground anyway, and I'm sure all of us will. But if it was, McDonald's doesn't feel great. That's not the classiest, is it? I think we could do better than that. But if they can find something classy, then maybe I can cope with it. If it means staying there, then I'd take it.
Yeah, that was what I was going to say. If it means helps us stay at the current location, or it was tangibly proved that it reduced ticket prices for fans the following season, then I would be more willing to entertain it. Obviously, in principle, no, I'd love it to just be the City ground, but if it's helps stem the tide of progress as some people see it, then I'd be more willing to do that. Kevin mentioned in the comments as well. Executive box for the owner. I did read that the owner's getting a new space in the ground to watch games, and that's not really improving the ground for fans, but certainly improving it for him. So that was something that is happening with the ground. Where shall we go? There was a couple of questions asking about Nuno. Is he leaving? Is it just clickbait? It looks like he's staying. It sounds like Forest are happy. Just quickly, because we've discussed this a lot, but if he is, I assume he's staying, because if you're going to change manager now, surely it's too late. So you want to get anything done like that ages ago, don't you?
Yeah, I think we can kind of put that to bed, especially short term. I think the most important thing now is the players to come back and the plans to put in place to have a really good, strong pre-season. Make sure that the connection is all there on the recruitment side, and try and make sure that this squad is ready to go come start of the season. There's a lot of pressure on the manager. He knows that, but again, that's why he's in the job. He expects that. There's a lot of pressure for him. It's now his first full pre-season. It's now his real opportunity to put a stamp on the team. So he'll be under more kind of critiques, even more this season, and he'll have to start well. And I think that's just kind of a parcel of football now, especially football management, is that you don't have that time, and he will know that with the time and the plans that he can put in place, it's now his team, and people are going to judge him on his team. So it's a big summer, it's a big pre-season, but I'm sure they're all well equipped to ready to go.
What do you make of the early fixtures with Bournemouth, Southampton and Wolves as the first three? That presents quite nicely on one hand, but it puts an onus on to get results as well, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's that we had this kind of similar conversation last season about how bad the fixtures looked. But I made the point last season, it looked doom and gloom. But if you can get any kind of positive result out of them first couple of fixtures, it completely changes the narrative. Again, this season, you look at it now on paper, it looks really good. But again, if you don't probably take maximum points or get a really good kind of points return from them early fixtures, the pressure is definitely going to be on, and people are going to start talking. So, I think when you're in the Premier League, I think no game's an easy game, and no start is a start that you want. Every team are going to come well prepared and be really ready for the start of the season. But again, you'd rather take this start on paper than last season. But there's still no time for shortcuts, and we'll still have to be ready to go.
Thanks very much to the second sponsors for Stay, Home Move Estate Agents. Good to have them back on board. Extended their sponsorship with us, which is great. Thanks very much to Ben Sales for all his support. And as always, if you're looking to buy and sell, summer's a good time to buy and sell, apparently. So get in touch with Ben. Email address is on the screen. It's ben@homemoveea.co.uk. Very well reviewed on Google. Everyone loves them, so they are the people to go to. Right, a couple more questions to get through, and I'll try and leave. Lewis has got to go in 15 minutes. I'll try and leave 5 minutes at the end for extra questions. So just quickly, Danscape asks about signing left backs. Why is it so hard to sign a Premier League ready left back? And seeing as England are struggling at the moment without one, saying how with Trippier playing, Dan says about Forest looking better at left back when Tavares turned up very briefly. Just on the premise of the question, I'll ask Lewis about left back specifically, but do you think we've got a Premier League ready left back already in Olorena, Pete, or not? I mean, I kind of think he ticks the box. He's a better right back, I guess, but he does the job, doesn't he?
No, I think we have got a Premier League ready left back. I also think it would be preferable to have a Premier League ready left back with a a left-footed preference in there as well. It's ideal that Aina can cover both sides. If we start the season with Aina at left back and Nico at right back, I've got no great issue with that. I mean, Lewis will be able to talk much better than me about what it offers you as a team having that balance. I guess he's already touched on that on today with what having a left footer there or at centre back opens up for you in terms of play. But yeah, clearly it's not a new problem for Forest really. This is it. I mean, I think my entire lifetime supporting Forest after Pierce, I guess, has been us trying to desperately scrabble around in the dust, trying to find left backs. In fact, I mean, I wouldn't mind asking Lewis about some of those actually. I mean, Nicky Shaw is a bit of a personal hero of mine from that brief spell. Who were any of them sort of particular highlights? I guess you must have been gagging for Shawry to stay.
Yeah, Nicky Shaw was incredible. It's probably the best loan spell I've ever witnessed. It was. I don't think he gave the ball away the whole time. It was, and that's including training. But again, and we talk about it as a group now of that team and that squad, and we felt that him not staying was a real big point of why we struggled from that point. And I think we had in that time we talk about left backs. We struggled. Percy played a lot there. He had to fill in a lot. But we had Nicky Shawry. We had Bertie. We had Ryan Bertrand. He came in and done really well. Conch came in. Paul Konchesky. So you know what I mean. We had kind of little people that covered, but they wasn't our players, and they all came in and shown kind of when you have that proper solid left back, the help it gives and the balance it gives to the team. Unfortunately, at that time, we just couldn't make any of them permanent. And Percy filled in, and Percy does it to really high standards. He can fill in anywhere and do a job. But yeah, I think it was a lot of fans, especially at that time, seeing that the amount of importance that losing Nicky Shawry, especially in that period, did for the team.
What I think I know the answer to this. What was he like as a bloke, Shawry?
Super quiet. Didn't really came in. Really good guy. Really good guy around the changing rooms, but very quiet. Just came, did his job. But it was and that's where sometimes it's a pleasure to be around players like that. That they say they come in, they're from a higher level, but again. Like I say, I don't think I've ever seen him give the ball away, and things like that stay with you as players. He's just very efficient, top pro, and a really good lad.
And does Trippier? I'm going to say stinking it up at left back. It's a bit hard because he's a right-footed left back, and I don't think he's fully fit. But does it show the value of having just a balance in a team? Because it's pretty ridiculous that England are playing in a major tournament without having a proper left back, isn't it?
Yeah, I think we all, as a country, we can all see kind of the unbalancing and the problems that it's causing, not having an out-and-out left footer at left back. I think again it's that thing. Sometimes an opposing team, when you're playing against a fullback who's stronger foot's the inside, that you know that they're predominantly going to want to come inside. So you can sometimes cheat a little bit because you know you're never really going to get done on the outside. So there's just little things like that as an opposing team to set up. It's a lot easier to defend because they're always going to try and come in on a weaker foot. And as I say, that's for another day. I'm not sure why, as an England squad, we haven't took an out left back, even if he wasn't going to start, but at least have that opportunity to call upon to have that balance. And I think again, I think Aina has been terrific. I think he's been a standout, especially towards the latter part of the season. A lot of games I watched, I thought he was really, really good. It's how Nuno sees it and how they go forward into this season. Does he see him as that solution? Does Aina probably is comfortable on the left hand side? We talk about Nico's search of kind of surge in performance and how well he did before the injury. So you look at the balance that we kind of nearly ended up with, and we was quite comfortable in both fullback areas. So listen, that might be something that the manager kind of doesn't want to touch and thinks that we're in a good place. But yeah, if he does, I'm sure they'll want to look for an out-and-out left footer.
If anyone's got, we've got about 10 minutes left, just under 10 minutes because Lewis has got to go. If anyone's got any questions in the chat they want to throw at us, drop them in and I'll try and take a couple just quickly. Pete, John Percy's just tweeted that the Moussa Niakhate fee, people drop in the chat now, is around £20 million. He's set for a medical to go for Lyon. 20 million. I mean, he's got, if Forest execute the year option, but we'll give him 2 years left on his contract, which I think they will. But 20 million feels like a result, really, with all due respect to Moussa, because he wasn't a regular in the team last year.
I mean, if that's true, then I think there might be, slightly more to this than just what they think is the right valuation of a footballer. To be honest, I'm pretty sure he's not really worth £20 million right now. And maybe we'll see some dealings in both directions, perhaps. Or, I mean, it's worth noting, I think, that as I understand it, the Premier League team interested in Niakhate was Crystal Palace, who share an owner or part owner with Lyon. So I don't know if there's more going on here, that there's some good relationships being built or something along those lines. But I mean, I don't think you can argue with Niakhate being sold for £20 million. I think he's. What I was going to say in the answer to your first question, I guess, before we got derailed a bit, was, and I think Niakhate is a good player, and I'm a bit sad to see him going away because we'll suddenly be faced with having no left-sided centre-backs. It's more recruitment to have to do. But I do think that my sort of overall sense is that he's probably a better player than he's actually shown in the time that he's been here. He's struggled to have really consistent runs in the team. Injury's been a problem. I'm not really sure that he's ever impressed himself on games quite as much as I sort of hoped that he would do. So I mean, for £20 million and that's gonna end up being a lot of PSR profit. I mean, that's a massive dent in the amount that we've got to make up. So I mean, you just can't argue with that, I don't think.
No, that would be around 15 million, I think, PSR profit. I mean, that's good business, isn't it, Lewis? If he goes for 20 million.
Yeah, no, it's great business. I think the problem is now is, I think as Pete's alluded to a little bit, when we look at transfer fees now, especially how football's going, we don't really know what the transfer fee is. We don't really know what the truth is, kind of the actual amount what's coming in, because there's so much kind of clubs and people above are now looking at ways to get round certain stuff. And so I think it'd be one of them things that we'll never quite know what the actual amount is. But if we are talking of them figures, then it's a really good deal. I think he's done really well. I don't think he's let anyone down. I think he's had a lot of he's had a few injuries at certain times, which has maybe cost him parts of playing a bit more. But I think sometimes along the lines of footballing in certain times, you just got to go, do you know what? It's a really good deal for both parties. We shake hands and we move on. And I think this is one of them deals. I don't think there's got to be kind of a negative spin on it. I think it's just at the time of where we are at the club, and offers come in. I think as a football club, we can't look to turn that down. Like I said, I don't think he's letting anyone down. I think he's been a really good servant for his time at the football club, and we wish him all the best moving forward.
Matt, I think it's the same as the Mangala deal, isn't it? And interestingly, they're both the same club, I guess. They've both been good players for us, and ideally, you'd want to keep them in the squad because they're good options. They can add quality. on their day, both of them are a good presence in the starting 11, let alone the squad. But it's real value there, and it's real PSR value, and that's just the situation we're in now. Is we have to look at deals in a slightly different way to what we've had to previously. It's not just about the sort of original club finances. It's very much about what you can get in terms of profit on your accounts.
Yeah, I mean, we're reacting a little bit on the fly there to it. We don't know how it pans out with, keeping Murillo and stuff like that. That's a conversation we'll pick that up on Monday, no doubt, when we know. Just before we get to any of the business, there was one last question. Regular listeners and viewers will know this is a big question. Do you leave your chocolate out in the fridge even in this heat? Just very quickly, Pete.
Absolute sicko. I think everyone who's not putting the chocolate in the fridge is an absolute sicko and needs to be scrutinised heavily. Get it in the fridge, get it nice and cold, especially at the moment.
All right, I'm almost tempted just to boot you out on the spot. I'm devastated by your lack of character. This is a heartbreaking moment. Lewis, as someone I admired as a player and have come to admire as a person, please don't let me down. Do you put chocolate in the fridge or not?
Well, I actually don't eat chocolate. I don't eat chocolate. I've never been a fan of chocolate.
He's found a loophole.
I can't answer you that question. I'm not a chocolate person. So sorry, I can't give you an answer there.
I mean, I don't know what to make of this development. Okay.
No, I'm going slightly over the top just to see the anger in your face, to be honest. But no, I mean, I am a fridge man. I'm a fridge man.
That's devastating. Okay, I don't drink Coke, so we all have our things that are a bit weird that everyone else does food-wise. So yeah, there you go. Right, any other business? Just quickly, one from me before we have to let Lewis go. Sunday, July the 21st. This is a few weeks away. Basewood Vets v Poets Vets, 12:30 p.m. kickoff. And then there's a game at 3:00. This is at Baseford United. Footprints favourites versus Little Footprints legends. You can get your tickets now if you scan the QR code on the screen or go to bufcclubshop.com in aid of Footprints. Looks like it's sponsored by John Pye Auctions and The Big Shed. So if you want something to do on Sunday, July the 21st, that's for you. Lisa Fox, who's organising it, tells me you're playing, Lewis. Is that an accurate description, or have you been thrown on?
I'm hoping. I did the parents' sports day race last week, and I tweaked my fire a little bit. Unfortunately, I still won. I still had something left in the tank, but I tweaked my fire. Unfortunately, so I've been a bit. So hopefully, fingers crossed, it can be okay, and I can be a part of what I was last year. Is a great day. So yeah, fingers crossed I can be involved. I'm not sure anyone coming what I can contribute these days, but I will be somewhere around that pitch trying to move about and hopefully it will be a great day again.
That's a bit of an ego thing, lining up for the dad's race. There's probably some guy who goes to the gym all the time and is shorts and a vest unnecessarily, absolutely desperate to beat Lewis McGugan. So was it a bit of a relief when you crossed that finish line ahead of him?
Well, yeah, it was. What did it? It was one of my son's friends. His older brother took part, and that was what did it. It was. I think he was 18, and I didn't need an 18-year-old running against. And yeah, the competitive part of me came out, so I had to find something that I've not had to find for a very, very long time. So yeah, but now my thigh and my body took the brunt of it. So hopefully I can recover and be a part of the day.
Excellent. We've got literally about 1 minute left before we have to go. Anything you want to add, Pete, before we depart?
I'll just answer the important question in the comments. Brown sauce with a sausage sandwich all day long.
Oh God. I mean, you might not even get invited back on this show after that.
What sort of Philistine are you, Matt? What are you up to?
Ketchup. I don't like brown sauce.
That's weak. Brown sauce is for complex individuals.
Lewis has got an opinion on this. Go on. What is it, Lewis?
Yeah, no brown sauce.
Oh, come on, Lewis.
It's just a no.
Oh dear, we had absolutely loads to pack into this show, and we spent the
I'm
last
gutted.
5 minutes discussing chocolate and what's put on a sausage sandwich. Right, very good. Great to have everyone's company. 300 people on board for the whole show. Do us a favour if you haven't already. Hit like, that would be great. Really help us out. We'll be back on Monday, probably, which will be post June the 30th. So hopefully we know a bit more. Might be back before then if something happens more concrete around players that might go. But in the meantime, Pete Blackburn, thank you very much.
Thanks very much. Absolute pleasure, apart from your heinous sauce and chocolate behaviours.
Lewis McGugan, thank you very much.
No problem, anytime.
This is what we bring you in for, Lewis. This is what you love to do.
He's just thinking, what on earth am I doing with my life now? I scored that goal against Ipswich.
Right. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day. If we don't see you tomorrow, hopefully we shall see you soon.